Tasma karma subharishman Ajnanarartakashishu Arta drishtim kuta shrotra Sparshishvas prishtavastushu
Tasma karma subharishman
Ajnanarartakashishu
Marta drishtam kata
shrotra Sparshishvas prishtavastushu
Tasmat karma subharishman
Tasma karma subharishman
Ajnanarartakashishu
Ajnanarartakashishu
Marta drishtim kata srotra
Marta drishtim kuta shrotra
Ashishwas prishtavastushu
Sparshishvas prishtavastushu.
Anyone else? Word for word. Tasmat. Therefore, karmasu, in fruitive activities. Barhishman, O King Prachani Barhishat, Agyanat, out of ignorance. Artika Shishu, in the glittering fruitive result. Ma, never. Arthadrishtim, considering to be the aim of life. Kritaha, do. Shrotrasparshishu, pleasing to the ear. Asprishta, without touching. Vastushu, real interest. Narada Muni speaking. My dear King Barhishman, you should never out of ignorance take to the Vedic rituals or to fruitive activity, which may be pleasing to hear about, or which may appear to be the goal of self-interest. You should never take these to be the ultimate goal of life. Please repeat. My dear King Barhishman, you should never out of ignorance take to the Vedic rituals or to fruitive activity, which may be pleasing to hear about, or which may appear to be the goal of self-interest. You should never take to these. Excuse me, you should never take these to be the ultimate goal of life. Srila Prabhupada's purport. In Bhagavad Gita 2:42-43, it is said, I'm going to chant together. Yamimam pushpatam vacham pabadantya vipaschataha vedavadaratat partha nanyadastiti vadinaha kamatmanak svargapara janma karma phalapradam kriya vishesha bahulam bhogaishvarya gatim prati. Quote, men of small knowledge are very much attached to the flowery words of the Vedas, which recommend various fruitive activities for elevation to heavenly planets, result in good birth, power, and so forth. Being desirous of sense gratification and opulent life, they say, and these Vedavadaratis, they say, that there is nothing more than this, unquote. Prabhupada continues, generally, people are very much attracted to the fruitive activities sanctioned in the Vedic rituals. One may be very much attracted to becoming elevated to heavenly planets by performing great sacrifices like those of King Barhishman. Sri Narada Muni wanted to stop King Barhishman from engaging in such fruitive activities. Therefore, he is now directly telling him, don't be interested in such temporary benefits. In modern civilization, people are very much interested in exploiting the resources of material nature through the methods of science. Indeed, this is considered advancement. This is not actually advancement, however, but is simply pleasing to hear. Although we are advancing according to such concocted methods, we are forgetting our real purpose. Bhaktivinoda Thakur therefore says, Jadavidya yatamaya rabhaya bhavato mara bhajane badha. Quote, materialistic studies are the glare of Maya only, for they are an obstacle to spiritual progress. Close quote. The temporary comforts of life experienced either on this planet or on other planets are all to be taken as illusory because they do not touch the real purpose of life. The real purpose of life is to go back home, back to Godhead. Ignorant of the real purpose of life, people take to either gross materialistic activities or ritualistic activities. King Barhishman is herein requested not to be attached to such activities. In the Vedas, it is stated that the performance of sacrifice is the actual purpose of life. Performance of sacrifice is the actual purpose of life. That's real sacrifice, not selfish. A section of the Indian population, Prabhupada can't resist taking a swipe at the Arya Samajis. A section of the Indian population known as the Arya Samajists lay too much stress on the sacrificial portion of the Vedas. This verse indicates, however, that such sacrifices are to be taken as illusory. Actually, the aim of human life should be God realization or Krishna consciousness. The Vedic performances are, of course, very glittering. Prabhupada used, again, we're going to talk about that too. Very glittering and pleasing to hear about, but they do not serve the real purpose of life. Srila Prabhupada ki? Right. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanam Jana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master is opening my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. So Narada Muni is not letting up because Barhishman is so attached to Karmakanda, just doing stuff for heavenly elevation and just making him the center of it, sacrificing for him. Prabhupada said they don't know their real self-interest. We're part and parcel of Krishna, so it's not really our self-interest to act selfishly because we're not an island unto ourselves. We're part and parcel. So Narada continues to hammer King Barhishat about the folly of making Vedic rituals the goal of life. Why does he do that? Because they aren't as valuable as they appear to be. Yeah, we're deceived by appearances. When we live superficially, we're just deceived by the way like Prabhupada says, that it might sound nice. Oh yeah, do this, do that, go to heaven. You know, take everybody with you, take your dog spot, take your family. Yeah. Now, in the purport, right off the bat, the way Prabhupada starts the purport, he quotes a couple of Gita verses from the second chapter. the flowery language of the Vedas, famous verses. I was quoting these in San Diego when we were talking. We were in San Diego. We were on Vamana Lila, Vamandev, the dwarf Brahmin, the miniature Brahmin, and so it was the part where Bali's spiritual master Shukracharya was telling him, no, don't give everything to Vishnu, or don't give everything to this dwarf. He's not just a dwarf, he's God, and he's going to take everything. But Shukracharya, he was very learned in the Vedas. Very learned in the Vedas, and most of the Vedas is karma kanda. Most of the Vedas. That's why people come. That's why Krishna knows that we come to this place not to worship him initially, anyway, but we come to try to enjoy separately from him. So most of the Vedas teaches us how to do that without getting degraded. That's the real karma kandi. Shukracharya was saying, look, don't do that. If he's Vishnu, and he's going to just take everything from you. He just asked 3 steps of land, but those won't be ordinary steps. He'll just take everything. So why did Shukracharya say that? Because Shukracharya, his whole motive of following Vedic rites and rituals, so he could enjoy, and his enjoyment was connected to Bali. He was Bali's, spiritual master. But Bali, and he was enjoying, because Bali was the king, the emperor. So don't do that. So I was quoting those verses. Now, Prabhupada talks about the Vedas, the flowery language of the Vedas, in a slightly different way. Later in the Gita, not in the 2nd chapter, in the 15th chapter, he opens the 15th, talking about the banyan tree of this material world. It's really appropriate for today's verse and purport and the mood of Narada Muni. So in 15:1, Krishna says, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, it is said. Krishna is always quoting the Vedas, even though he's the source of the Vedas. It is said that there is an imperishable banyan tree. We have banyan trees in Tucson? No. At the Hawaii temple, there's a big one in the backyard. So it's very entangling. It is said that there is an imperishable banyan tree that has its roots upward and its branches down. And whose leaves are the Vedic hymns. Yeah, if you see this tree in the backyard of the Hawaii temple, there's roots coming, it's not just down, but they're dropping also from the branches. And one banyan tree can actually produce a whole forest because it just goes down, up and down, and very entangling. Its branches, and whose leaves are the Vedic hymns. So a tree is a tree, but it looks very decorated by the leaves. And then when the seasons change and the leaves fall off, and you see the tree standing bare again, right? The leaves are the Vedic hymns. So the real purpose of the Vedas is to teach us what the material world is about, and not just be enamored by the pretty leaves or the flowers or the fruits. Are the Vedic hymns. One who knows this tree is the knower of the Vedas. If you really know what this tree of the material world is all about, then you know what the Vedas is. Now, Prabhupada's purport is very juicy, very telling. Purport. After the discussion of the importance of Bhakti Yoga, right, in chapter 14, one may, or that's the three modes of material nature, but the whole,
1426 is Bhakti Yoga.
okay, 14, yeah, Mantra Yoga, that's true. Okay, right, that brings us out of the modes. After the discussion of the importance of Bhakti Yoga, one may question, what about the Vedas? It is explained in this chapter, the Yoga of the Supreme Person, Purushottam Yoga, that the purpose of Vedic study is to understand Krishna. Anybody know the line where Krishna says that? In the 15th? Yes. By all the Vedas am I to be known. I am the compiler of Vedanta. I know Veda as it is. Therefore, one who is in Krishna consciousness, who is engaged in devotional service, already knows the Vedas. We've come to the Vedanta, Bhakti Vedanta, Prabhupada's name. Anybody know how Prabhupada got that name? Bhakti Vedanta?
Given to by Srimad Maharaj.
Yes.
They really call it Bhakti Siddhanta.
Right. Yeah, you know the story, yeah. Yeah, Prabhupada. And what prompted them to give him that title was Abhay Prabhu. He was in Calcutta, this is in the late 30s, 1930s, and Prabhupada had pretty much given up on becoming rich, like he was predicted to be. Another Birla, we would say Rockefeller, or who do you say now, Bill Gates, or Elon, or... So, but it wasn't working. Krishna was personally handling his karma, so he didn't make Prabhupada, quote, rich until he went to the West. And then he got so many followers and temples and Lakshmi, but Prabhupada used it, just every penny, right, for Krishna's service. All right, so Prabhupada, he was, Sridhar Maharaj gave a memoir to our Lilamrita team, and he said, we noticed, me and Bhakti Saranga Maharaj, we noticed, because they wanted a base. They wanted a base. They were living in Mayapur, but they wanted a base to preach, even after the breakup of the Gaudiya Math. So they wanted a base. So Abhay Babu said, well, just come to Calcutta. I have an extra room here. I just moved back to Calcutta, and I have some extra. You can just have them. Give whatever information you want for utilities or whatever, but you can just stay there. And so they said, okay. So Sridhar Maharaj said, so we noticed that, Swami Maharaj, by then, he was telling us later, Swami Maharaj, he wasn't so much interested in business anymore. And he said to me, Swami Maharaj, when he was Abhay Babu, said, Maharaj, I tried to, actually become wealthy, and it didn't work. So, but there's a verse, Yasyaham anugranami, when I'm especially favored by someone, then I take away everything. You think that's what's going on here? And Sridhar Maharaj said, I think so. It seems like it. I mean, you were supposed to be, but what did you say the astrologer said? You're supposed to be another Birla, but it's not happening. So you have special favor. So then Prabhupada, or Abhay Babu, he started writing Introduction to Gita Upanishad. You can see this in Prabhupada's early writings on it. They have the database. Introduction to Gita Upanishad. Just the introduction, right? And it kind of reads like a first draft of what we know as the introduction to Gita as it is, which Prabhupada later dictated in 1966. So Sridhar Maharaj and Bhakti Saranga Maharaj were so impressed by this writing. So, I mean, everything is in that introduction. It's the whole Gita in a synopsis. The 5 truths of the Gita and religion and Dharma. So much that they said, we want to give you a name. And yeah, at first it was Bhakti Siddhanta, but that didn't sound right. Or I think Sridhar Maharaj proposed that, and Bhakti Siddhanta said, no, you can't give him that. It's Guru Maharaj. How about Bhakti Vedanta? So Prabhupada, he humbly accepted it. Okay, I don't know, I have no qualification, but you insist? Okay. So he became Bhaktivedanta Prabhu. And then later, of course, when he took sannyas, and 20 years later, in 59, Bhaktivedanta Swami. Okay. The entanglement of this material world is compared here to a banyan tree. For one who is engaged in fruitive activities, there is no end to the banyan tree. You can keep doing it, and that's the point. Barhishman was, it's like an addiction. You just get addicted to, the payoff of heavenly sense gratification you want. And you go up and down and up. He wanders from one branch to another, to another, to another. The tree of this material world has no end. And for one who is attached to this tree, there is no possibility of liberation. If you're attached to the tree, we're in the tree too. We're in the tree of the body or the tree of the world, universe, but we're cultivating Vairagya Vidya, Nija Bhakti Yogam, knowledge and detachment in Krishna's service. The Vedic hymns meant for elevating oneself are called the leaves of this tree. The glittery, the glittering leaves of this tree. This tree's roots go upward because they begin from where Brahma is located. Is that painting in this edition? You know that painting? Everything rests on desire. You see in the top part of the painting. No. It's not in this. You mean in this one? No, it's not. That's short. Yeah. Oh, in the 72. Yeah. Everything red. You see the top part is Krishna, the spiritual world, the cows, and then you see a divide. There's desire. Is the middle. That's kind of like a watery middle. And then in the bottom, you see the dark, entangling, material world, and everything's struggle, and yeah. So, here we go. So yeah, and then you see the root of the root of that tree is going up because, well, Prabhupada talks about it here. What does that mean? How does that work? Okay. The root of this material existence grows upward. This means, here's Prabhupada explains that, this means that it begins from the total material substance, from the topmost planet of the universe. So when we read about creation in the second and third canto, we find that the first created being is not some one-celled animal, as the Darwinists would have us believe, but it's Brahma, the most advanced creature in the universe, and Krishna enlightens him, and we just heard some of those prayers that he expresses, the Govinda prayers, when we greet the deities. This means that it begins from the total material substance, from the topmost planet of the universe, Brahmalok. From there, the whole universe is expanded with so many branches, representing the various planetary systems. The fruits represent the results of the living entities' activities, namely the religion, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation. And then Prabhupada says, well, upside down, what does that mean? And so Prabhupada says, now, there is no ready experience in this world of a tree situated with its branches down and its roots upward. But there is such a thing. That tree can be found beside a reservoir of water. We can see that the trees on the bank reflect upon the water with their branches down and roots up. In other words, The tree of this material world is only a reflection of the real tree of the spiritual world. So it's actually a fact that it grows from the roots from Brahmalok, but also it's a metaphor too. It's a reflection. This material world is a reflection of the real world. The tree of this is only a reflection of the real tree of the spiritual world. This reflection of the spiritual is situated on desire. Whatever we want. If we want to serve Krishna, we're in the spiritual world as soon as we want to try to serve our false sense of self. Then we gotta get entangled with this material world. Desire is the cause of things being situated in this reflected material light. One who wants to get out of this material existence must know this tree thoroughly through analytical study. It's called Sankhya. Then he can get out, then he can cut off his relationship with it. Of the real tree is an exact replica. Everything is there in the spiritual world. Yeah, whatever we experience here is there reflected in purity. I remember somebody asked Prabhupada, is there snow in the spiritual world? Because we associate, unless you're a real skier, you live for snow. But if I ever see snow again, except on the top of those mountains, it'll be too soon, as the saying goes, right? The Prabhupada's, it's not unpleasant. Doesn't make you freeze.
Those pastimes where all the seasons are happening at the same time, Radha and Krishna, and so there is snow.
Huh?
Yeah.
Where is that?
There's one of the pastimes that talks about in his classes.
Everything is there in the spiritual world.
Doesn't snow in Boma, Vrindavan, that's for sure.
Boma, that's earth.
Yeah. On this earth Vrindavan.
Or they know in Boma, what do you mean?
That's what he's saying.
It doesn't snow in Vrindavan.
Vrindavan, yeah. Right. Yeah, because it's too hot. Doesn't snow, it gets pretty cold there. It's down in the 30s. Maybe that's just too, maybe it just it's rain. Okay. The impersonalists take Brahman to be the root of this material tree, and from the root, according to the Sankhya philosophy, come Prakriti, Purush, then the 3 gunas, then the 5 gross elements, senses, mind, etc. In this way, they divide up the whole material world into 24 elements. If Brahman is the center of all manifestations, then this material world is a manifestation of the center by 180 degrees. So we're the bottom part. And the other 180 degrees constitute the spiritual world, the top of the circle. The material world is the perverted reflection. So the spiritual world must have the same variegatedness, but in reality. So we have variety here, but all the variety is, it's just not satisfying, and we all have different bodies, there's all variety here, but then all these elements in our bodies, they're gonna go back into the earth or the atmosphere, and it's not real, it doesn't last. The Prakriti is the external energy of the Supreme Lord, and the Purush is the Supreme Lord himself. And that is explained in Bhagavad Gita. Since this manifestation is material, it is temporary. A reflection is temporary, for it is sometimes seen and sometimes not seen. But the origin from whence the reflection is reflected is eternal. So when we go home, we have bodies, but they're not material, they're spiritual, they're made of eternity, bliss, and knowledge. Yes. And because that we're coming from Radha Krishna. But the origin from whence the reflection is reflected is eternal. The material reflection of the real tree has to be cut off. So we just gotta cut off our attachment to the reflection. When it is said that a person knows the Vedas, it is assumed that he knows how to cut off attachment to this material world. In that painting, there's one person in the material world that's good. He's the sadhu with the sword. Remember that? He's cutting off. He's about to cut a root. Yeah. So that's what we have to do. We have to cut off our attachment by attaching ourselves to Krishna. If one knows that process, he actually knows the Vedas, not somebody who's just trying to do the rituals and go to the higher planets. He actually knows the Vedas. One who is attracted by the ritualistic formulas of the Vedas is attracted by the beautiful green leaves of the tree. He does not exactly know the purpose of the Vedas. The purpose of the Vedas, as disclosed by the personality of Godhead himself, is to cut down this reflected tree and attain the real tree of the spiritual world. Kalpa vriksha, desire trees. So, you know this word, desire tree, right? Kalpa vriksha lakshavrateshu surabhi rabi palayantam. So the desire trees, unconstrained by material bodies. What if you go? Do you know? Let's see. What is it? Darshia? Was that your name? Darlia. Do you know? You've heard of desire trees? No. Okay. Okay. All right. Well, let's see if Bali knows. Put you on the spot. Do you know if you go to it like here? If you go into the yard here, like there's trees. Are there any fruit trees in here?
We have some orange trees and citrus back there.
Okay, so if you go to that tree, all you can get is oranges. But if you go to the desire tree, what can you get from desire trees? Do you know? Wait a minute, come on, Mom. There's a helicopter mom here. She's rescuing her son. Do you know what you can get?
From the desire trees in the spiritual world?
Yeah. Well, that's the only place they are. You don't find them here. Well, actually, you do. There are in Vrindavan.
I really don't know. Because isn't everyone in the spiritual world not desiring anything but the pleasure of Krishna?
Well, okay, you're getting warm there. Just give you anything you want, any kind of fruits, anything you want, because they know, because they're all devotees. They know that you're not just you want to just offer it to Krishna. Yeah. So therefore, there's free flow of supply. And the same with the, yes, darling.
So they have desire trees in the spiritual world?
Wait a minute, this thing just went on. Louder.
So they have spiritual trees in that are full of desire for the devotees in the spiritual world?
Yeah, their service is to give the devotees whatever they want to give to Krishna. Pretty neat, huh? And therefore, they can give, and they're multi-giver. They give whatever, whatever kind of fruit. Prabhupada says on this recording. And similarly, in the spiritual world, there's spiritual cows. What are the names of the spiritual cows? Do you know what they're called?
All I know is Surabi.
That's it. That's you got it. Surabhi. Surabi. We say Surabi in English, but Surabhi. Surabhi cow. Kamadena, right. Denu namasvi Kamaduk, it says in the 10th chapter of the Gita. Among cows, I am the Surabhi, givers of abundant milk. Like if you guys ever been to an ISKCON farm? Where? Vrindavan. Okay. So do you know they have cows there, right? Yeah. Do you know when they milk those cows?
In the morning,
And
in the afternoon.
on the afternoon? Usually it's morning and evening. Okay. Twice a day. You can only milk, because the cows, they're constrained by the limits of flesh and blood. So they're milked in the morning, and then they let them out and they go, to pasture, or if it's the winter in New Vrindavan, it's pretty heavy winter, they give them, feed and green chop and grain, and they got to wait till and then they turn all that food into milk. And then, so their udders, they're not ready to be milked. But Surabhi, unconstrained by the limits of flesh and blood, anytime, Prabhupada says, you can go and get unlimited quantities of milk because they know you're going to offer to Krishna. They're devotees, and that's their service, to give you milk, because Krishna, he loves milk. He loves milk sweets. He loves so many things. So that's the spiritual world. Everything's there, but there's no selfishness. It's all for Krishna. That's the real self. That's the real self-interest. So all the desires are pure, and all the supply is unlimited. There's no need. Prabhupada would say, do you ever see a picture of Krishna going to the factory? He doesn't have to do anything. He doesn't have to go work in a factory. And then Prabhupada chuckles. He says, do you ever see a picture of Krishna smoking to get some pleasure, some material?
There's a deity in Vrindavan that smokes hookah.
Yeah.
So when they took it away, the deity became angry. And
Smokes what?
it smokes hookah.
Suka?
Hookah.
Hookah. Oh.
And then
Silver.
they brought it node. They took the hookah away and became very angry. And the deity chastised the Pujari.
Wow, in a dream, huh?
So then he's always out there.
What's in the hookah?
Tobacco.
Oh, no.
It's a whole thing. It's a real thing. And you're doing something tells the story that
Okay.
with the warning that this particular deity may devotees should not follow and see.
Anyway, the point is, everything is Krishna's energy. So to enjoy, Krishna doesn't have to go outside himself. He just enjoys his own energy. But that's an exception. That's the exception that proves the rule of Prabhupada saying, you ever see a picture of Krishna smoking? Well, transcendentally, there may be some exception like that.
Just did that one time.
Huh? Yeah. Okay.
He was in a house that was like not a devotee house. They were offering him that. When the devotees took him, then like he was mad because they didn't take him. He was like,
Huh. That's so funny. Krishna's tricky. He's the exception to every rule. Okay. All right. So in the purport, how are we doing? So in the purport to today's verse, Prabhupada, he goes straight to that verse. And then, and is also later in the purport, Prabhupada references Thakur Bhaktivinoda's opinion of materialistic studies in his Kalyana Kalpa Taru. I meant to bring the whole quote, but I didn't. But Prabhupada says in the purport, Bhaktivinoda Thakur therefore says, Jaravidya Yatramaya Vaibhav Promara Bhajane Bhardha. Quote, materialistic studies are the glare of Maya only, for they are an obstacle to spiritual progress. Because by materialistic education, or we think we're learning more and more about the world. And I just heard a morning walk. Prabhupada was in Toronto in August 75. About 50 years ago. It's August 2025 now. And the Indian people are saying, because mostly there's so many Indians in Toronto. So he's saying, Prabhupada, it's so hard to preach to these people. He meant his, Indian, Canadian people. Because they're just here in the West, to study and learn technology and, get a degree and then go get a high-paying job. And Prabhupada said, they are the new crows. The old crows are the Westerners. And they're simply chewing the chewed of trying to enjoy. But now the Indians, they're coming from India to chew what you people have been chewing for hundreds of years, because they're enamored by the materialists. They're trying to forget their own culture. So they're the new crows. So just tell them, be very blunt with them. Tell them, look, you'll never, technology, look, don't fall for that. Just take another look at your own culture, because you're not going to enjoy materially. Look at, and that's why Prabhupada said, that's why the Westerners are coming to India now. Because they've seen the whole thing of it. They've seen the whole thing, and that didn't make them happy. So Indian man is going, oh, I see, Swamiji. Okay, so, all right, and then Prabhupada references Arya Samajists who stress Vedic sacrifices. Yeah, so there's a little reference to Arya Samajists in the TLC. In the spoken word, you hear Prabhupada talk about Arya Samaj. He usually says Arya Samajis, Arya Samajists. Yeah, they're okay. In the chapter talks with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya in TLC, Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. According to Lord Chaitanya, those who try to give some personal interpretation of Vedic statements are not at all intelligent. Right? Yeah. Yeah, because that's what Sarvabhauma was doing. Before he was, Lord Chaitanya made him a devotee. They mislead their followers by inventing their own interpretations. In India, there is a class of men known as Arya Samajists who say that they accept the original Vedas only. They only accept the Rig Veda, right? And reject all other Vedic literature. But in Vyasadev's natural commentary on the Vedas, the Bhagavatam, you can't even understand the original Vedas in Kali Yuga. It has to be unpacked for you, and especially, we have the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, we have Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. That's the only way. That's our only access to the meaning of the Vedas, Kali Yuga. Prabhupada says, the motive of these people, however, is to give their own interpretation. According to Lord Chaitanya, such interpretations are not to be accepted. They are simply not Vedic. They just make up stuff. Lord Chaitanya said that the Vedic statements of the Upanishads are like sunlight. So what Upanishad do we have? No, not Purana. Upanishad. Isopanishad. That's the only Upanishad that Prabhupada, because that's the most personal of the Upanishads. Sri Isho Upanishad, the Upanishad, the instruction of the controller, Krishna. Very clear. Clear like sunlight. Everything is clear and very distinct when it is seen in the sunlight. The statements of the Vedas are similarly clear and distinct. But the Mayavadi philosophers simply cover the sunlight with the cloud of their misinterpretation. Just like when I went to college in the 60s, UConn, University of Connecticut, I took a course on the philosophy, what was it? The philosophy of religion, or Eastern religions, essentially. Yeah. And so we had to read the Bhagavad Gita. But it wasn't, and you know where the Gita was in the campus bookstore? It was in the occult section. Oculore, oculi occultum, it's a Latin word, it comes from the Latin, it means hidden. It means hidden. Because even though it's clear as bell, the verses, the way Prabhupada gave it as it is, the interpretation, of course, it was translated by Dr. Radhakrishnan. That was the popular one of the day, and he just covered everything. It's like in 934, clear as day. Who knows 934? Manmana bhava mad bhakto madhyajimang namaskaru mame vaishyashi yogvaivam atmanang madparayanaha. Engage your mind always in thinking of me. Offer obeisances and worship me. Engage your body in my service. Offer obeisances and worship me. Being completely absorbed in me. Surely you will come to me. The personal pronouns are used 5, 6 times. Me, it's a person. And then what does Radhakrishnan say in his first sentence of his commentary? It is not to the person, Krishna, we have to surrender. It is to the unborn, unmanifest, the ineffable, inexpressible, inconceivable. And Prabhupada says in his purport to 934, fools like that don't know that there's no difference between Krishna's within and without. He's pure spirit, he's a person, he's where everything's coming from. Yeah, so, where am I? Yeah, so therefore we didn't understand it. I remembered 3 things from that course about the Gita. And it was good. I remembered Krishna, the name, the word Krishna, Arjuna, and karma. That's all I remember. That's all I remember. And that's okay, because later on, when I read As It Is, it all made sense. Okay. Arya Samajis. They don't like deity worship too, because it's personal. Yeah. So, let's see. Now, Srila Prabhupada's final sentence reminded me of a famous English saying in the purport, which Prabhupada knew from his college days. Let's look at the last sentence of that purport. Through the Vedic performances are, of course, very glittering and pleasing to hear about, but they do not serve the real purpose of life. So what famous saying has the word glitters in it? English saying?
All that glitters is gold.
All that glitters is not gold. From a Shakespeare. Yeah, it's from a comedy. It's Shylock. It says, all that glitters is not gold. So Prabhupada, he went to Scottish Churches College, so he knew Shakespeare. He would quote Shakespeare and the Bible and stuff like that. So Prabhupada would quote that line, but it's interestingly he would quote it in different ways. Yeah. So for example, in 330 in his purport to 332:28, he uses it to criticize impersonalists who say that all glittering matter is false. So Prabhupada said, Vaishnavas say it's a reflection of reality. Matter is a reflection. Krishna. Yeah. So it's not. So they say, the impersonalists say, Brahma Satyam Jagan Vidya. Brahma Satyam, only Brahman, spirit is truth. And Jagan, the universe, is all false. No, but the universe, this is, so, Prabhupada would get really heavy with them. In Boston in 1968, that's where Maharaj tells us that he saw Prabhupada. He had a class at Harvard, it was Harvard, yeah. And after the class, the Indian students came. There were more new crows. So Prabhupada, so he was just arguing with Prabhupada. No, everything is everything is ultimately impersonal. So Prabhupada just grabbed him by his cotton shirt. If everything is all one, then why aren't you wearing a cotton ball? You're wearing a shirt. Shirt is just like cotton, and cotton you can make into cotton ball, like in your medical, you use cotton. Or you make your Q-tips, for your ears. Why aren't you wearing a cotton ball? And the guy was like,
Is that an approved method of preaching these days?
Yeah, don't try that on your own. Right? Yeah, no, Prabhupada, he was elderly, and he was talking to another Indian, trying to shake him awake, shock him awake.
They have a certain rasa, the Indians. They have, I call it transcendental masochism.
How is it?
They enjoy getting chastised.
Yes, by the guru, by the sadhu, right? Okay, it's getting, okay. All right, I'll stop. I had a little more, but you have a question?
Oh, I just wanted to say, I have a lot of new people in my Bhagavad Gita class, last night, and several of them have read other editions of the Gita, and they said it they didn't get much from it, and
Uh-huh.
that reading Prabhupada's Gita is like, the light's coming on,
All right.
so
Cool.
that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, me too. I think we all have that.
We have one more question.
One more question
Yeah. You might be scared to ask.
from Darlia,
From Molly.
from Bali. All right,
Question
Bali.
is,
Wait a minute. He has a question. Why are you asking?
oh, she's scared.
You're his representative? Okay.
Okay.
Bali.
Ask one more question about.
Wait a minute. Now you're telling him the question?
What we was talking about yesterday? About, the guru situation and all that. And what we talking about. What you heard today about, wanting yourself in the material world, and then at the same time, analytical study of the material world, how they coincide with each other. Remember that? Anyway.
Time's up, just about. What's the question?
You were saying that we should detach ourselves from the material world by the way of analytical study and knowledge, but at the same time, you were saying that all this so-called study of knowledge should be abandoned, and you don't look at it because it's just all materialistic.
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah.
So we can
Well,
solve that.
yeah, the qualifying word there is, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, all this advancement of materialistic knowledge. Yeah. So materialistic knowledge, like when you go to the university, like, you learn a lot of stuff, and it can be good if you have a purpose, if it's you're going to be used in Krishna's service. But if it's just going to make us, so we think we can, get a degree to get a good job to enjoy the material world, what's the use? Because you don't enjoy. You try, and then you start buying the T-shirt. Are we having fun yet? We're not having fun. So, but real knowledge is knowledge of, in the Gita, of where the material world's really at, and detach by attaching ourselves to Krishna. On that note, we'll attach ourselves to Krishna Prasad. Ki Jai. Hari Hari.
The Christian